Hey, I'm Albert Orange. You're listening to the 57th episode of the Bell the Before podcast with Albert Orange, hosted by yours truly, Albert Orange. Um, it is the last episode of the podcast that will be named um, the Bell the Before podcast with Albert Orange. All right. I have a new name for the podcast coming up that will be uh, released on next Tuesday night. All right, and that will be the new name. Uh, it's an odd number to pick to pick. 58 episode 58. Um, I could just start at episode 60, but I figured it's been long enough since I've had a crappy name for the podcast. And, it's also the end of January. And I promised myself that I should, switch the name by the end of January and stuff. So, that's what's going to happen um, at the end of this month is I'm going to have that new name for the podcast. All right. So, I'm very excited for that. So, you know, this is gonna be it. This is gonna be the last one named the Bell the Before podcast. I can't even speak. Um, it used to be called Before the Bell, you know, and then I wanted to change it to something else, just in order to avoid any any copyright trouble and stuff. CNN has their own podcast. It's also called uh Before the Bell, you know. I think it's about a stock market news podcast. Um there are several other podcasts named Before the Bell, so and they're all about, either the stock markets or like boxing, you know? So it always has to do with some sort of bell. And I guess I was like the first one to, you know, come up with a podcast name before the or yeah, no, Before the Bell, right? But have it be about like a school bell. All right. The original premise of this podcast, and I just want to say this. All right. I hope everyone's had a lovely day, a lovely week. I hope everyone's gonna have a great time watching the playoffs, watching any sports, or just living life, doing their hobbies, hanging out with friends, family, whatever. I hope everyone's having a nice time on uh, this fragile uh, piece of time that we're given on this fragile piece of rock, which isn't that very fragile, at least not to us, but in comparison to the rest of the universe, at least the observable universe, it's pretty special here. So I hope everyone's having a good time. That being said, the original premise of this podcast was to talk about my week. It was supposed to be like you know, like just giving you all a weekly update right before Monday, right before the work week starts. You know, because that's what I used to do. Um, in my senior year of high school, Um, and some other times in high school. In high school, I don't know why my voice is just giving out all of a sudden. Um, Maybe I need to drink water or something. I don't know. I've already drank plenty of water, but you know, um, all throughout high school, right? Um, an interesting time would come up. At least I thought it was interesting, where you know it would be Monday morning. You get to school, and then you sit down with your friends to have a chat about the weekend. Things that you did, and then the bell would start to ring, and then that's when you would head on to class. And the only thing that you would do is talk, because you didn't have any homework due over the weekend, or due Monday morning, or whatever. Maybe I did, and maybe I just neglected to do that. But the whole point of it was to talk about, you know, just talk, you know, um, right before our work week began as students, you know. And that's what this podcast was kind of supposed to, um, I guess, recreate in a way. I would just, talk about stuff, um, you know, just talk about things that are on my mind. Nothing specific, there's not any one uh topic, um or field that you know this podcast is supposed to focus on, right? Um cuz I talk about so many things. I talk about anything and everything, all right? Um but that was the original idea for this podcast. And also because I started this podcast because I wanted to have a podcast. I just wanted a podcast, and I wanted to, create something. And that's why I started this whole thing. And I liked Before the Bell because because it had a nice abbreviation, you know, BTB, right? Um it was three letters, right? BTB, and it was catchy, I thought, at least. I made the artwork myself, for Bell the Before. You know, I don't know exactly what I was going for, but I knew I liked to take like a bunch of different colors and just like warp them around each other, so it would almost look like like uh like oil in water, you know, or not oil, gasoline and water, or just plain old gasoline, like in a puddle. You know how like there's like streaks of just like rainbow color, just like kind of slithering itself around, you know. That's kind of what I try to replicate as I was doing it, because that's like what I realized it looked like, as I was coming up with that idea. And so I spent a lot of time on the cover, and on the text alone, just like the font for the title, Helvetica bold oblique. That's what it was. That's what it is. And fun fact, I'm still going with Helvetica for the font for this new title, and for the artwork, but Instead of uppercase, it's gonna be all lowercase. You know, so I'm just going from all uppercase to all lowercase this time. So that's a that's a difference you can expect. You know, if you care at all. So yeah, and I spent a lot of time on the artwork, made it myself, and I started recording in December of 2020. Yeah, no, December of 2020. Yeah, yeah, because I think that's when Mandalorian season 2 came out. You know, and so I was busy binging that, and I knew I wanted to talk about that. You know, at some point. So yeah, or was it? Well, The Mandalorian came out in 2019, so yeah, 2020. Yeah, because 2020 was when the virus hit. So when The Mandalorian came out that year, season 2, it was like, all right, how epic would this be if, throughout all the division, hatred, uh, you know, just the culture war. How cool would it be if this one little show brought everybody together? And it did so, and I think in such a fabulous, fantastic way, you know. For anyone who hasn't seen that final episode of season 2, oh man, that was great. you know? Um and now they're coming out with the season 3, which I haven't talked about yet. And I wasn't planning on talking about it. And I haven't seen the trailer or the teaser or whatever the hell it was. I haven't seen any of it. I know that they aired the trailer on television during during halftime uh on one football game. I think it was during the Dallas Cowboys and Tampa Bay game for the wild card. Because I think that might have been on ABC. Because I think because it was Monday Night Football, and so it was on ABC, and ABC is owned by Disney, so it would make sense, right, from a financial standpoint or whatever. Um, I'm not a businessman, but it would make sense for Disney to promote their own products, or in this case, uh, you know, streaming service shows on their own broadcast network, right? And so that aired on TV, but since it was halftime, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna step outside just to avoid this trailer, just to avoid watching it, because I don't want to see any of it. I'd rather be surprised. I'd rather be experiencing the actual show for itself. So that's why I didn't watch it. Because I don't like trailers. You know, I really don't. They give away too much. But back to the podcast. All right. Back to the early days of the podcast. Early, few weeks of the podcast. Okay. So, I spent a little bit of time in December, just coming up with this podcast, coming up with a title, artwork, getting everything set up. And I started recording in December, and I recorded 2 episodes, and I pre-recorded those. So the first 2 episodes were dropped on the same exact day. I believe that's the case. Okay. And I don't know when those first 2 episodes dropped. I think it might have been somewhere in January. But then, and this was, keep in mind, this was, I was a very, I wouldn't say I was very political back then. But I was a lot more into quote unquote politics back then. And I say quote unquote because what we think of as politics nowadays is really just, the culture war, right? So I was a lot more into that back in the day than I am now. Now I'm just out of the loop, I don't watch the news, I don't read anything, any news that I might encounter that's like either discovered by me on, like in passing, like if I see like the headline of a newspaper somewhere, or like if I see like some sort of headline on Google, like the front page of Google or whatever, or maybe even like on YouTube. That's like the only type of news that I, happen to see. But like, I don't go out of my way to consume the news anymore at this point in time. But back then I was. And, then, that whole thing at the Capitol, went down. This was January 6th, 2021, 2 years ago. And I was very upset about it. And I thought I would use my podcast to speak out about it or whatever, or just to like at least voice my, the fact that I was upset about this whole load of malarkey. All right. And so I did episode 3 talking about that whole affair. But I did it at the beginning of that episode. And then for the rest of the episode, I think half of that episode was like talking about January 6th, and then the second half was just me like very glumly just talking about other things. And I think the title of that episode was Walmart Urinals in 1800s Words. So I was talking about the urinals at Walmart, at a Walmart bathroom, and words that I found in this Sherlock Holmes book that I thought, were weird, or, that I've never seen before. Because that whole Sherlock Holmes series was written back in, I think the late 1800s. So they used like different words back then, and I wanted to talk about those. I thought it would be funny to like go over some of those, but like just talking about January 6th before all of that just kind of like brought the whole mood down, you know? And it just killed the yeah, it totally killed the mood for me. And so I got done with that episode, I uploaded it, you know, and then after that I was like, you know, I don't know how I can come back from that. You know? And it's not like it's not like anybody listened back then. You know what I mean? Like even now nobody listens, right? Maybe I get like you know, a few views here and there on YouTube. Maybe I get like a few, you know, plays on Spotify or whatever, but like not many people know about this thing that I do, right? So, and even less so back then. So it's like it wasn't even a big deal. Like but like I thought that, you know, if I don't feel like I can come back from like talking about the insurrection, you know, then it's like why even do the podcast at all? You know, it's a very weird and I don't know what it was cuz after that third episode, I just completely stopped, you know, doing the podcast. Episode 4 didn't come out until, you know, July of 2021. Okay? June, July, you know, summer of 2021. So I spent pretty much 6 months just like not even, you know, interested in doing the podcast anymore. And you know what? I think it was because I set the tone myself on accident by talking about the insurrection, right? And so I think that, you know, kind of like just like subconsciously keep in mind I think I'm overthinking this. It could just turn out that I was just lazy or whatever, but it could have subconsciously just like told my brain, you know, that now doing the podcast is going to be like weird from now on. Cause like, I don't know, like, you know, I try to make this podcast like kind of, you know, funny or entertaining or whatever. So by talking about, you know, that sort of thing, it kind of just like ruins the mood and stuff. And so, you know, it's like you know, the podcast is just kind of like ruined and stuff. So after that I'm like, you know, I don't feel like making the podcast funny or entertaining or whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't feel like feeling goofy after that insurrection. I think that's how I felt, you know? And so I think because I didn't feel like goofing off after that, I didn't feel like doing the podcast as well. And it wasn't until, you know, summer hit that I realized, you know, I kind of want to do it again. And I kind of want to just like, you know, do another episode because I do have some stuff to talk about. I wanted to talk about pizza and stuff. And so that's what I did. And from there on, you know, I kind of just like, and keep in mind, it was very up and down, my upload schedule, you know. There were a few stretches where I just didn't bother trying with this podcast at all. I never uploaded for, like there were certain weeks where I just never uploaded and stuff. Um, but I don't know, like, and then there was also like this one stretch where, um, I think spring of this year. Yeah, or not, no, not spring of this year. Summer of this year. I'm sorry, summer of last year of 2022. That where I never uploaded anything at all. You know, um, we can actually. I mean, I have an internet connection. We can actually see when I, you know, never just uploaded anything before. Um, let's see. Let's see here. Uh, okay. Yeah, so from January until June of 2021, that's where, you know, that was like after the insurrection, Um, from June of 2021 all the way to, you know, I think November. Yeah, November of 2021. I kept a pretty good consistency, I guess. Actually, no, it wasn't at all consistent. But I uploaded quite a few episodes there, and then from November of 2021 to let's see here. Okay, there was a there was a time in November from episode 19 to episode 20. Episode 19 was published November 8th, and episode 20 was published a month later. So I skipped out on that on an entire month there. And I mean that's pretty much the same for last year, 2022. And by in the end of December I just like hammered out a bunch of episodes to get to episode 25. And from then on, there's been like, I guess, like blocks of, you could say blocks of upload schedules and stuff. There's been weeks where I've been consistent with the uploads, and then other weeks where I haven't been consistent. So 2022, there have been blocks where, like, I don't know, I guess like 5 week blocks where the uploads were consistent, and then after those 5 weeks, I just, for whatever reason, I never recorded anything, And so then from, let's see, July till October, I just never uploaded anything at all. And then I did 2 episodes in October, and then from October October 27th to December to the beginning of December, I never uploaded anything at all. So, um yeah, that's like very erratic, you know. Very there's no consistency at all with the uploads and stuff, you know. So, yeah, that's something that I've been trying to solve for as long as I've been doing this podcast. Um, and I think I finally hit a groove, you know, with uploading twice per week, you know? So I think I like what I'm doing right now, you know? Um, Doing this podcast once per week, uh, you know, I mean, it works for a little while and then, it just stops working for me, you know? And, I thought about doing this podcast twice per week, you know, before, right? Like, in the first year that I was doing this, right? I thought about doing it twice per week, but I didn't want to because I thought it would be too hard. And now I'm like, well, it's not really hard at all, but I was new, I was very confused, and I still am confused about a few things, like how the hell do I make my audio sound good? Like, I already have a microphone, but like, is it good enough? Like, I don't have anything else to compare it to. I feel like the audio processing for this is like very bleh, you know? I feel like you know, like you could go deaf if you wanted to from just listening to my voice, you know? Um yeah, so there's a bunch of things that I'm still figuring out when it comes to this podcast, but um I think with the schedule, with the upload schedule and stuff, um I think I've got that part down, because I actually do have a schedule now. Like, I actually wrote it down on a dry erase board. Um, you know, just solely for this podcast. I went out and I bought two dry erase boards just to plan out, you know, each recording for these episodes and stuff. So, um, which is something I haven't had before. Um, and so yeah, I think that's the reason why I'm so consistent now. Obviously, I still have to prove the test of time and stuff. I mean, I've only been doing this for, you know, like a month and a half, just like uploading, you know, 2 episodes per week. But it's going good so far, so, I'm going to keep doing it. Um and so yeah, that's like the story of this podcast, and, summarized in like 34 minutes, you know? So we're now going to embark on a new era, you know, under a new title, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to not have a crappy title anymore. um, And like I said before, the new title for this podcast is a little unusual. I think it's very unique, but I think it's unusual in a good way. You know what I mean? So it's like me, like I would say I'm weird, like I'm a weird person, but weird in a good way. You know, when you were a kid, you've always wanted to be like if you were gonna be considered weird by everybody else, you wanted to be weird in like the good kind of weird. You didn't want to be like that kid in the playground just running around with looking up at the sky, with their arms like waving around and stuff. Like, you especially didn't want to do that like indoors, like in the hallways and stuff, because then that would make you the bad kind of weirdo, and that's not what you want, you know. Um, so um, yeah. Uh, I can hear my dog whining. He wants to be in here with me. Oh man. He wants to be in here, right? I think he just wants me to just, coddle him just constantly, which is just like it's so it's so tiring sometimes, you know what I mean? But anyways, yeah, that's the story of this podcast. Anyways, let's talk about sports. Why not? You know, let's just let's just talk about what's gonna go down this weekend. I've already given my predictions, Um, you know what? Why don't we let Rio in? Let's do that. I want this episode to be a little bit shorter, anyways. So I'll let Rio in. All right, hold on. All right, so I was gonna bring Rio in, and I did, but once I let him in, I immediately regretted it because he just wanted to get out so fast. So he's still outside. But I brought him water and stuff, so I think everything's good. I'm providing him with water. You know, it's probably got some calcium in it or something. Minerals and stuff. So I think we're good there. Anyways, let's just talk about a little bit about sports now. Um, and I didn't mean to. I wasn't planning on talking about like the podcast in like a meta sense. But can you hear that? He already wants back in. He's like pushing against the door, hoping that it'll open. And it's like, God damn. Why are you like this? I wasn't planning on talking about like the whole life of this podcast, but for this episode, but like I don't know. I guess I have nothing else to talk about or something. That's a lie. I do have other things to talk about, but now I just got into like talking about this whole thing, and I'm like, oh, this could be the episode, So, anyways, yeah, let's talk about sports and what's about to go down this weekend. Here's the theme song for the sports segment of the Bell the Before podcast. All right, that's so that's the sports segment theme for the Bell the Before podcast. I hope that was enjoyable for your ears. I've already given my predictions the last episode for what I think is about to go down. Um, of course, it's nothing that you would expect from like a professional sports broadcaster, analyst, whatever. But I think I've got it down, because like I feel like the Bengals have a real shot at this. The Eagles have a very good shot at this as well, Granted, they did play against the Giants, okay, last week. So, no disrespect to the Giants, but it wasn't such a, it wasn't such a scary opponent, okay? The 49ers are, okay? The 49ers are a scary opponent. But I'm just basing this Eagles win purely on the fact that, I think the 49ers should just lose at some point, okay? Because if the 49ers, if I were looking at this from just like an outside perspective, never mind my biases against the 49ers, if I were looking at this, from an outside perspective, I would pick the 49ers over the Bengals or the Chiefs, when they play in the Super Bowl. If they play in the Super Bowl, I would pick them, but I wouldn't because, I'm a good person, okay? So, I'm just going to predict that the 49ers just, get the crap beaten out of them by the Eagles. And that's what's going to happen, okay? The Bengals are going to beat the Chiefs, I don't know how long Patrick Mahomes is going to play with that ankle injury, I just don't see it happening, and I certainly don't see him winning the Super Bowl with that. I think that's just not sustainable, you know. Sure, he can heal up, get healthy during the off season, but you know, I don't know about that. It seems a little suspect to me. And so, that for those reasons I'm out. All right. So, anyways, yeah. That's all I got to say about that whole affair. I am going to be, if I'm able to get the Pro Bowl, okay, and if it's going to be on ABC or whatever, one of the big four fucking networks, right? ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, right? If I'm able to watch that, I'm definitely gonna call that flag football game, okay? I want to see that. I low-key kind of want to see that. So, anyways, yeah. That's all I got to say about football. And other news, in other leagues, I should say. Let's look at the NHL, all right? So, let's see here. The Kraken are tied with the Golden Knights. They are in first place, according to Google. However, the Golden Knights are playing a game right now, which is in the third period with 5 minutes, 38 seconds left. And the Rangers, the Golden Knights are playing against the Rangers right now. And the Rangers are winning 3-1. Okay? The New York Rangers. So if the Golden Knights lose here, which it might seem like they will, the Kraken are gonna hold their lead, okay? At least for the time being. However, the LA Kings, okay, which are in third place right now with 60 points, the Kraken and the Golden Knights are tied at 61. Assuming that a win equals 3 points, because that's how it works in soccer. I'm sorry, football. Assuming that a win equals 3 points, which I think it does. I think it does, right? 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 Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. How many points is a win in NHL? If a team wins a game in NHL, they are awarded 2 points in the standings. Okay. Oh, I thought it was 3. If they lose in overtime or in a shootout, they will receive 1 point. A loss in regulation will not earn any points for a team in the standings. What if they tie? Can you tie in hockey? Can you tie in hockey? Wait a minute. So if you lose in overtime, you get 1 point regardless? Why? That's all right. All right. Okay. Let's see. Wait a minute. Hold on. How many points is a tie in NHL? What are the overtime rules? If the score is tied after 3 periods, the game goes into overtime. Overtime is a 5-minute period where the first team to score wins the game. Okay, you know what? This is taking a long time. I'm just going to assume that a tie equals no points. Or that a tie just has to end in sudden death or a shootout or whatever. All right. So I didn't know that it was 2 points for a win. Okay? But anyways, if the LA Kings win against the Panthers, and they're leading the Panthers right now 3-2 with 5 minutes 37 seconds 5 minutes 42 seconds left to go in the third period. I was looking at another game there. Then the Kings are going to go up to 62 points. However, the Kraken have a game today later at 7 p.m., actually in half an hour, against the Flames. Is it? I'm going to guess it's Chicago. No, it's Calgary. Against the Calgary Flames. So they got an opportunity here to get up to 63 points. Okay? So if that happens, then they're still going to maintain their first place lead, but, it's still by, like, a very, very thin margin. You know what I mean? So, all in all, the Kraken are having a great season so far. And I'm very proud of that. And, that was great. So anyways, that's what's going on Uh, I will finish this episode here. Hold on, let me play the outro for the Bell the Before sports theme segment. Sports segment. The outro theme for this Bell the Before sports segment. Here it is. That's it. That's the Bell the Before sports theme. All right. I'm going to close this episode out. Again, thank you all for listening and stuff, I really appreciate it. I hope you're all having a great day and stuff. Hold on, let me pull up the language list here. Different. Do I have to fucking type this whole thing out on Google? Different ways. Hold on. Wait. Goodbye in different language list. Here we go. Okay. All right. Let's just let that load here. Okay. All right. I really need to take a screenshot of this so I don't have to look this up on Google all the time. Let's do that now. Why not? Hold on. Let's see here. We ended last week with Russian. So we've got like only like I think like the final fourth of different languages left on this list. So I'm going to have to find some sort of other way to end the podcast soon. But until then, and also until next week, I'd like to say thank you for listening, all right? Thank you for participating in all of my antics, that this is the end of the Bell the Before era of the show, and next week we shall begin a new era under a different name. So I'm very excited for that. Thank you, Bell the Before. You're possibly the worst name for a podcast ever, but hey, you did your job and you were there. So thank you. And that's all I gotta say. So as the Serbians say, oh fuck, hold on. Zdravo. It's got an exclamation point there. Zdravo. Zdravo.